You are burning out because your workplace was designed by men for men, and your home expects a second shift of unpaid labor on top of it. This isn't just exhaustion, it is a structural failure costing millions of women their careers and health every single year. There is a hidden architectural flaw in how our modern lives are built, and the third solution I'm going to share is the one experts ignore. Of water, get comfortable, and let's get into the mechanics of this. It's common to see burnout as a personal failure, a sign that you just aren't tough enough to handle your workload or balance your life. But the data tells a much more clinical, systemic story. A 2021 report by Lean In and McKinsey and Company found that 1 in 3 women are considering downshifting their careers or leaving the workforce entirely. This isn't just about work pressure. It's about the compounding effect of the broken rung in career progression and the invisible load of emotional labor. When we talk about burnout, we often focus on the exhaustion, but the clinical definition from the World Health Organization is a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. It is not a diagnosis of the person, it is a diagnosis of the environment. The first actionable win for you today is what behavioral scientists call task auditing for the invisible. Most people know how to track their billable hours or their project deadlines, but very few track the cognitive tasks of their daily life. You need to write down every single task you perform in a week that isn't on your official job description or your primary house rule list. This includes everything from organizing the school calendar to remembering birthdays, tracking household supplies, and mediating emotional tensions. A 2019 study from the University of Michigan showed that women spend, on average, 2 hours more per day than men on unpaid caregiving and household management. That is 14 hours a week. That is nearly a part-time job. Once you see it on paper, the sheer volume of microtasks, you can start the process of offloading. I'm talking about delegating, automating, or simply deleting the tasks that don't serve your core mission. If you can automate your grocery list, use a shared digital calendar for all family events, or buy back your time by hiring help, do it. This isn't laziness, it's energy conservation. If you're finding this perspective helpful, hit subscribe. I drop these deep dives every week, and I'd love to have you in the loop. Now, here's where things get interesting, because even if you audit your tasks, you still have to navigate the likability trap. This is a concept explored deeply by Joan Williams, a professor at the University of California Hastings College of the Law. The trap is simple but devastating. Women are expected to be both competent and likable, whereas men are often only expected to be competent. When you push for a raise, set a hard boundary, or lead with authority, you risk violating that likability expectation, which causes a phenomenon researchers call the backlash effect. You work harder to prove your worth, you perform more emotional labor to keep the peace, and you end up exhausted by the sheer performance of it all. The level up here is radical transparency with your inner circle and your professional mentors. You don't need to ask for permission to change your workload. You need to start frame shifting your conversations. Instead of saying, "I'm sorry, I can't take on this new project," try saying, "I'm prioritizing my current outcomes, and adding this would impact the quality of the projects I've already committed to." It turns a personal no into a professional yes to productivity. Think about that difference. The first is an apology. The second is a strategy. Using this phrasing consistently has been shown to shift how peers perceive your competence without sacrificing your time. Now let's talk about the third method. Remember how I said the best one was coming? Here it is. The single most powerful way to combat burnout is to intentionally decouple your self-worth from your productivity. We live in a culture that rewards the hustle, but if you look at the research, including a study from the Harvard Business Review, those who maintain non-productive identity domains actually see a 32% increase in long-term career longevity. This means you need a life, a hobby, or a community where you are absolutely not efficient. You need to be a bad painter, a slow hiker, or a novice gardener. You need a space where there is no boss, no to-do list, and no metric for success. When you have a strong identity outside of your output, you stop burning out because you stop tying your survival to your work. If a project fails at work, it's a data point, not a catastrophe. That one shift alone can change your mental baseline more than the first two methods combined. Let that sink in for a second. Once you see it this way, you can't really unsee it. You realize that the goal isn't to do more with less, but to value yourself more than the work you produce. It turns the game from how do I survive this to how do I thrive in this. So there you have it. 3 real systemic ways to address burnout, starting with auditing the hidden load, moving through the likability trap, and landing on the most important shift: decoupling your identity from your output. If you got value from this, share it with a friend who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive into how to optimize your life. Take care of your energy. I'll see you in the next one.